Good morning, one and all. Today, first of all, I'll revise what we had discussed in the last class because some of you people did not understand some of the topics, right? So I'll discuss the last class topics. After that, I'll start with the bipartite graph. 1 second. Am I clear, ma? Am I audible? Okay. So in the last class, what we discussed, we have discussed some of the terminology that we use in this graph theory. So what is the terminology we use in this graph theory that we discussed, right? So what do you mean by a parallel edge? What is a graph first? So the definition of the graph is it contains set of the vertices and set of the edges, right? G equal to V or V and E. Set of V represents set of vertices, set of edges, right? So a graph can be like this, right? So like A, B, C, D. So we can call it as a graph where set of vertices are A, B, C, D and set of the edges are E1, E2, E3 and E4, right? Now let us suppose between each pair of vertices, if you have more than one edge, then we'll call them as parallel edges. Between the same pair of vertices, between the same pair of vertices, if there exists more than one edge, we'll call them as parallel edges or multiple edges. Parallel edges are multiple edges, right? Now between the same vertex, if the edge is from the vertex to itself, then we will call it as a loop. If the vertex is from the if the edge is from the vertex to itself, it is called as a loop. Right? And whenever the edge is from A to B, then we'll call this A and B are end points of the vertices. A and B are known as end points. We'll also call them as A and B are adjacent with each other. Adjacent with each other. Clear? And we can say that this edge E1 is incident with the vertex A. E1 is incident with the vertex A. Clear? 1 second. Now, coming to simple graph. Simple graph. A graph which does not contain loops and parallel edges. A graph with no loops and parallel edges is known as a simple graph. Is known as a simple graph. And the opposite to this simple graph is multigraph. Opposite to the simple graph is multigraph, where in multigraph you can have parallel edges and loops. You can have parallel edges and loops are allowed in case of a multigraph. What is the another name for multigraph? What is the another name for multigraph? Do you remember? Multigraph is also known as pseudograph. Multigraph is also known as pseudograph. Multigraph or pseudograph, both are same. Yeah. So these are what known as whatever the graph I told you as of now, it is an undirected graph. Why? Because you did not have any direction to the edges. There is no direction to the edges, right? So second category of the graph is a directed graph. A directed graph. Directed graph means we can have directions to the edges. We'll have directions to the edges. There will be directions to the edges. Something like this. A, B, C, D, E, F. Right? So when you observe this, we are having directions to the edges. So we'll call it as a directed edge or a digraph. Directed edge or digraph, right? Next, we'll see the degree of a, but one more is, in case of a undirected graph, suppose if the edge E1 is between A and B, we can say that E1 is incident with the vertices A and B. E1 is incident with A and B. In case of a digraph, we can say that this A, the vertex A is said to be, it is adjacent to B because the arrow is from A to B. We say that the vertex A is from adjacent to B, and here the vertex B, we can say that it is adjacent from A. Adjacent from A. In case of an undirected graph, we can say that it is incident vertex. We can say that it is adjacent to so and so vertex. Clear? One second. Now coming to the degree of a vertex. First, we'll see the degree of undirected graph and the directed graph. How to find the degree of an undirected graph, we'll see now. Right? So, the degree of any vertex in an undirected graph is equal to the number of edges incident with it. The degree of a vertex in an undirected graph is equal to the number of vertices incident with it. Consider if you have a vertex A and if the graph is something like this. Now, when you calculate the degree of a vertex, what is the definition? The number of vertices incident with the vertex A. How many edges are incident with it? 1, 2 and 3. Total 3 edges were there. Therefore, the degree of A is 3. Let us suppose if you have the graph like this, right? Now, when you calculate the degree of B, how many edges are incident with the vertex B? 1 and 2. Clear? Now, coming to the C, the degree of C is equal to, the degree of C is equal to how many edges are incident with it? 1, 2, 3 and 4. 3 and 4. Now, degree of D is what? The degree of D is the number of edges incident with it are only 1. Similarly, the degree of E is 1, F is also 1. Clear? Now, if you have a loop at any vertex, when there is a loop at any vertex, then the loop contributes 2 to the degree of vertex. The loop contributes. So here we have a loop at vertex E. Therefore, the degree of a vertex, to the degree of E, a value of 2 will be added. Therefore, the degree of E becomes 3. Now, according to the handshaking theorem, what are the 2 points you must remember? The sum of the degrees of all the vertices, should be equal to 2 times the number of edges. It is equal to 2 times the number of edges. Now, what is the sum of the degrees of these vertices? 3 plus 2, 5 plus 4, 9, 10, 14. So, total is 14. Sum of the degrees is 14. LHS is 14. Now, consider the number of edges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So, 2 into 7. 14 is equal to 40. Clear? This is one point. And second point is number of odd degree vertices. The number of odd degree vertices should be even. Now count how many vertices are having odd degree. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1 second. Number of odd degree. Sorry, this is even. No, 2 is even. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So the number of odd degree vertices are how many? 4. And the value 4 is even. So the number of odd degree vertices should be even. Clear? This is the degree of a vertex in case of an undirected graph. Now we'll see how to get the degree of a vertex in case of a directed graph. In case of a directed graph, we have 2 degrees. One is in degree and out degree. In degree. So in degree and out degree. Now the degree of a directed graph. So we have 2 degrees. In degree, generally it is represented as degree minus of vertex V. Out degree, degree plus of vertex. Right? So the in degree is calculated as the definition. First of all, see the definition. The definition of in degree is the number of edges, the degree of V, in degree of V is equal to the number of edges where V is the terminal vertex, the number of edges with V as their terminal vertex. Terminal vertex means what? In case of a directed graph, 1 second. In case of a directed graph, if the edge is from A to B, then we'll call the vertex A as the initial vertex and B as the terminal vertex. In case of a directed graph. In case of an undirected graph, we'll call both A and B are endpoints. Both A and B are the endpoints. Right? Now the in degree is the number of vertices where V is the terminal vertex. Similarly, out degree is number of edges with V as initial vertex. The number of edges with V as initial vertex. In simple terms, just for you to remember, you can say that the in degree is the number of incoming edges towards the vertex V. Number of incoming edges towards the vertex V. Similarly, out degree is number of outgoing edges from the vertex V. Number of outgoing edges from the vertex V. Clear? Now let us see one example. Consider a graph like this. Let us suppose there is a graph like this. Consider this is a directed graph, right? Now, for this graph, for every vertex, you will have in degree and out degree, right? In degree and out degree. Now, consider the vertex A. In degree is the number of edges with V as incoming edge. the number of edges, the number of incoming edges towards the vertex A. Towards the vertex A, how many edges are incoming? This is an outgoing, right? And this is an incoming edge, and this is an outgoing edge. So number of incoming edges are 1. Number of outgoing edges from the vertex A are 1 and 2. So A is equal to 2. And one more point is, in case of an undirected graph, the loop will contribute the value of 2 to the degree of a vertex. In case of a directed graph, the loop will contribute 1 to the in degree, 1 to the out degree. Right? Now coming to this B vertex, incoming edges to B are how many? 1. And this is 2. 1, 2, right? So 2. Plus there is a loop at vertex B. So it will contribute 1 in the in degree, 1 in the out degree. Now coming to the out degree of B. How many edges are going from B? 1, 2. 2 plus there is a loop, so it will contribute 1 to the out degree. Now C. Coming to C. Number of incoming edges towards C. 1. That's it. Only 1. Number of edges going from C. Only 1. Similarly for D. Number of incoming edges are, these 2 are outgoing. So no incoming edges. Plus there is a loop at D. So it will contribute 1 in the in degree. Similarly, outgoing edges from D are 1 and 2. 2 plus loop contributes 1. Now for E, incoming edges are 1 and 2. And the outgoing edges are, there are no outgoing edges at E. Similarly for F, the incoming edge is only 1 and there are no outgoing edges. Okay? So in this way, we can find the degree, in degree and out degree for a directed graph. Clear? Any doubts? Next, we will see the types of the graph, different types of graphs we have. And the first and foremost important one is complete graph, types of graphs. Complete graph. Generally, it is represented with Kn, where this n represents the number of vertices. Complete graph Kn is n with the number of vertices. Right? So the complete graph means there exists exactly one edge between every pair of vertices. There should exist exactly one edge between every pair. That every pair is important. The word every pair is important. Between every pair of vertices. We'll call it as a complete graph, right? So, consider one example. Consider there are two edges. Sorry, there are two vertices. Then we'll represent it as K2, right? Now, between this pair, between A and B, there should exist exactly one edge. Yes, so it is known as a complete graph with two edges. Sorry, a complete graph with two vertices. Similarly, if the number of vertices are 3, between every pair of vertices, there should exist exactly one edge. So, between this pair, there should exist an edge. Between these two, there should exist an edge. So it is a complete graph with 3 vertices. Similarly, complete graph with 4 vertices. So between every pair, from A, consider A, B, C. From A, we have an edge to B. From A to C, A to D. Now that means you must have AB, AC, AD, and BC, BD. With C, you must have C. So from B, you should have BC, BD. From C, you must have an edge to D. Clear? So this is a complete graph with 4 vertices. If there are 5 vertices, then from A, you must have an edge to B, A to C, A to D, A to E. Now consider B, B to A, B to B, B to C, B to D, B to E. Now from C, C to D, C to E. That's it. And from D, D to E. Right? So this is a complete graph with 5 vertices. So between every pair of vertices, there should exist an edge. Now, when you observe the degree of a vertex in case of the complete graph, here what is the degree of A? The degree of A is equal to 1 and the degree of B is equal to 1. Right? And here the number of vertices are 2. So I can write this one as 2 minus 1. Now coming to K3, here the degree of this vertex, let it be A, B, C. Degree of A is 1 and 2. Degree of B is 1, 2. Degree of C is also 2, right? So I can write this 2 as 3 minus 1. Now for K4, the degree of A is 1, 2, 3. Similarly, for all the vertices, the degree will be 3 only. Now when it comes to K5, and you can write this 3 as 4 minus 1. In case of a K5, by what time you are joining, ma? Now for K5, the degree of all the vertices will be 4. You can write it as 5 minus 1. Therefore, you can say that the degree of every vertex in case of a complete graph is equal to n minus 1. The degree of a vertex in complete graph is equal to n minus 1, and all the vertices will have the same degree. Clear? Do remember these 2 points. Degree of a vertex, degree of every vertex. You can say every vertex. Why? Because all the vertices are having the same degree. Degree of every vertex in Kn is equal to n minus 1. Similarly, number of edges, remember this, number of edges in Kn in a complete graph with n vertices, it is equal to n into n minus 1 by 2. The number of edges, in complete graph is equal to n into n minus 1 by 2, and the degree of a vertex in complete graph is Kn. Okay? Now, in this complete graph, every vertex is having the same degree, right? Now, for any graph, if all the vertices are having the same degree, then we will call it as a regular graph. If all the vertices are having the same degree, we'll call it as a regular graph. And if all the vertices are having a degree of 3, we can say that the graph is a regular graph of degree 3. And you can also consider them, and you can treat this complete graph Kn as a regular graph. Why? Because here all the vertices are having same degree. So you can say that a complete graph is a regular graph with degree as n minus 1. Complete graph is a regular graph with degree as n minus 1. Is it clear now? So that is the difference between complete graph and the regular graph. Next, cycle graph. Cycle graph means if there are n vertices in a graph, then there should exist the vertices. Suppose if the vertices are from V1 to Vn, then the edges should be like V1 to V2, V2 to V3, so on up to Vn to V1. You must have the edges from Edges like V1, V2, V2, V3, V3, V4, V4, V5 like that, Vn and V1. That means starting for this is known as a path. You can call it as a path. So in this path, the starting vertex and the ending vertex should be the same. So if the edge starts at vertex D, it should traverse through all the vertices in the graph and it should come back to the same vertex. That is known as a cycle graph. Clear? The path starts at vertex V, has to travel through all the vertices in the graph and should come back to the same vertex. That is known as a cycle graph. Let us consider if there are two vertices, A and B. Let us assume that I have started from the vertex A. I have to visit all the vertices in the graph. Here we have only B. And you must come back to the same vertex A. But that is not possible with two vertices. Clear? That is the reason for a cycle graph, the minimum number of vertices should be 3. The minimum number of vertices for a cycle graph should be 3. So the minimum cycle graph, possible cycle graph is C3. Minimum possible cycle graph is C3. Let us suppose if there are 3 vertices, then C3 will be like this. A, B, C. Start from a vertex C, go through all the vertices in the graph and come back to C. Right? This is C3. Suppose if there are 4 vertices, A, B, C, D, then start from vertex C, traverse through the vertices, the remaining vertices in the graph and come back to D. Similarly, C5. Start from any vertex, traverse through all the vertices and come back to the same vertex. Right? So this is known as a cycle graph. Now, in the cycle graph, let us assume that we have an edge in the center, and if this edge is incident with all other vertices in the cycle graph, if this edge is incident with all other vertices in the cycle graph, then we will call that type as a wheel graph. We'll call it as a wheel graph to a cycle graph. And this vertex, whichever the vertex is adjacent with all other vertices, whichever the vertex is incident with every other vertex, we will call it as a universal vertex. We'll call it as a universal vertex. Right? Now, what is the definition of wheel graph? We can say that in a cycle graph, if you include a universal vertex in a cycle graph, if you add a universal vertex, that means universal vertex you are adding means what? That vertex should be incident with every other vertex in the graph. Should be adjacent with every other vertex. Right? So cycle graph plus universal vertex. Cycle graph plus universal vertex is equal to wheel graph. So, the minimum cycle graph is C3, right? To the cycle graph, you are adding one vertex. So, C3 plus 1 is equal to W4. That is wheel graph with minimum edges as 4. C4 plus 1 is equal to W5 and so on. Clear? This is about wheel graph and cycle graphs. Is it clear? That's okay, ma. And the next most important is bipartite graph. Bipartite graph. Bipartite graph means in a given graph, if V represents the set of vertices, if V represents the set of vertices, and if you are able to divide this V into two groups, V1 and V2, if the given set of vertices, if you are able to divide them into two groups V1 and V2, then you must have the edges. A graph G will be given with set of vertices and a set of edges, right? Now you are dividing this V into V1 and V2. And when you try to draw all these edges present in this graph, when you are drawing all these edges in the given in the graph, then the edge should contain one end point in V1 and second end point in V2. The edge should contain one end point in V1 and second end point in V2. Clear? So, one way to check whether the graph is bipartite or not is you can randomly select the vertices and divide them into groups. But that is not that much easy. Not easy if the number of vertices are more. There exists some 15 or some 10 to 15 number of vertices, then it is very difficult to consider all the possibilities, right? That is the reason you can consider the concept of coloring the graph, coloring the vertices. So how you will color the vertices is, you must consider maximum of only two colors. You have to consider only two colors. Every vertex should be colored with any one of these two colors. Every vertex in the given graph, must be colored with one of two colors, right? And if a vertex V1 is colored with some color like blue, then its adjacent vertices, the vertices which are adjacent to V1 should not be colored with black. That means adjacent vertices should not be colored with the same color. Right? If you are able to color all the vertices in such a manner that no two adjacent vertices should have the same color, then we can say that the given graph is a bipartite graph. So consider, I'll give you an example. You tell me whether this graph is a bipartite graph or not. One second, I'll give you a graph. Now consider this graph and tell me whether this is a bipartite graph or not. And one more is, in case of a bipartite graph, you should not have loops. There should not be any loops in a bipartite graph. I already told you what is the reason. Why should we consider? Why should not we have loops in bipartite graph? Can you tell me why loops are not allowed in bipartite graph? Why loops are not allowed? Why? Because here loop means what? The loop means it is an edge from a vertex to itself. Vertex to itself. If you consider the loop is at A, then we can say that this loop is A to A. That means what is the adjacent vertex of A? It is A. According to this bipartite graph, you should not color the adjacent vertices with the same color, right? So So here if you color A with black, then its adjacent vertex, it should not be colored with the same black. But here, as A and A are adjacent, so it is not possible to color them with a different color. That is the reason loops are not allowed in case of a bipartite graph. Now you try to color, let us consider black and white are the two colors I am considering. Now you try to color these vertices using black and white such that no two adjacent vertices should have the same color, right? Let us suppose if I have colored with A with white. Now what are the adjacent vertices of A? E. So it should not be colored with W. One more adjacent is B. It should not be colored with white. Similarly, D is also adjacent to A, so it should not be colored with white. Right? Now the adjacent vertices of A are colored with a different color like black. Now consider B. What are adjacent to B? F. So it should be colored with white. Next, C is also adjacent, so it should also be colored with white. Now, what are the other vertices which are not colored here? H. So H is adjacent to E. As E is colored with black, so it should be colored with white. Clear? Now G is adjacent to F. As F is colored with white, so it should be colored with clear. Now you are able to color all the vertices with different all the vertices such that no two vertices are having the same color. Now what you can do is, now you can divide all this set of vertices into two groups. Consider what are the vertices colored with white? A, F, H, C. Now the vertices which are colored with black are B, E, D, G. That's it. Yes. So now when you try to draw these edges, let me name these edges E1, E2, E3, E4, E5, E6, E7, E8. Carefully observe ma E9, E10. 10 edges are there. Let me draw here A, F. Shall I write in a fresh page? Let me write it in a fresh page. So we have A, B, C, D, right? And E, F, G, H. So this is the given graph, right? And there is energy from B to F also. Okay? Yes. Now you please name these edges. Yes. One second. Now you color these vertices B, W, B, W, B, right? Similarly, B, so it should be W. White, so it should be blue. White, so it should be blue or B. It should be W. Clear? Now you please divide the vertices. Here, write white color vertices. Here, you write black color vertices. White color vertices are B, D, B, D, ikkada em unnai? E and H. E, H. Now what are black color vertices? A, C, F and G. Right? Now please draw the edges such that the edge should contain one endpoint in the first group, second endpoint in another group. Right? So what is the first edge? E1. E1 is between A and B. So this is E1. E2 is between A and D. A and D. E3, C and D. E4, D and C. Now when you also all these edges, we have one edge in first white group, one edge in black group. Now now E and F. E6 is between E and G. E7 is between F and H. E8. E8 nama. This is E8. E8 is between A and E. E9, D and F. E10, D and G. E11, last one. C and H. Now when you are we have points, the edge, all the point in white group, another end point in black group. The graph is a bipartite graph. Then graph is a bipartite graph. Is it clear now? Still, if you have any doubts, you please let me know. Okay then. Is my voice clear? Am I not clear, Satvika? Graph. Complete bipartite graph. Am I audible? So complete bipartite graph means you know what is a complete graph, right? Complete graph plus bipartite graph. The definition of complete graph and the bipartite graph you have to add will give the complete bipartite graph. So complete bipartite graph is equal to complete graph definition plus bipartite graph definition. You have to consider both together will give you complete bipartite graph, right? What is the definition of complete graph? What is the definition of complete graph? Complete graph means between, if there exists exactly one edge between every pair of vertices. Dharantesh, am I audible? Okay. Between every pair of vertices, there should be exactly one edge. That is complete graph. You know what bipartite graph, right? So the edge should contain one endpoint in one group, second endpoint in another group, right? So complete bipartite graph means the bipartite graph should be complete. Let us suppose it is represented as K, M, comma, N, where M represents the number of vertices in the first group, N represents the number of vertices in the second group, right? Let us suppose if K3, 5 is there, K3, 5, that means in the first group you must have 3 vertices, in the second group you must have some 5 vertices, right? That's so when you consider every vertex in first group, it should be adjacent to every other vertex in the second group. Every other vertex in the second group. Clearly? Now consider B in the first group. It should be adjacent to every other vertex in the second group. Now C should be the same. It should also be adjacent to every other vertex in the second group. Now you can say that it is a complete bipartite graph. Clear? Have you understood the difference between bipartite and complete bipartite graph? So these are all the topics I think we have discussed in the last class too, right? Now we'll move on to the next topic, that is subgraph. Subgraph. So subgraph means from a given graph, by removing some of the vertices and some of the edges, we can form a new graph, and that is known as a subgraph. From the given graph, after removing some of the edges and some of the vertices, if a new graph is formed, we will call it as a subgraph. Call it as a subgraph. Clear? Let us see one example. Consider a graph like this, A, B. Let us suppose this is one graph, right? Now this is G. Subgraph G1 can be, you can remove some of the edges or you can remove some of the vertices, right? Let us suppose if I have removed D, when I remove this vertex D, whatever the edges are incident to it will also be removed. Why? Because there is no vertex D. So whatever is going or whatever is connected to the D, those should be removed. Then the graph will be like A, B, C, E. Now you can say that this is a new graph formed by removing some of the edges and some of the vertices from the original graph. We will call it as a spanning graph. Sorry, subgraph. We'll call it as a subgraph. Let us suppose if I have removed A, if you remove A, then what you will get? The edges incident with A, that means these two edges should be removed. Therefore, you will get B, C, D, and E. You can also call it as a subgraph. Suppose if you have a graph like A, B, C, D, like this. If you have a graph like this, is it a subgraph? A, B, C, D are the vertices from the same graph, vertices from the given graph. But in the given graph, do we have the edge from B to D? You don't have this edge from B to D, right? Therefore, this is not a subgraph. You can remove some of the edges and some of the vertices from the original graph, but you cannot add a new vertex or new edge in case of a subgraph. Right? You can only remove, but you cannot add new things. Right? That is known as a subgraph. Now, spanning subgraph. Spanning subgraph. For a subgraph, you will be removing. For a subgraph, you can remove edges and vertices, right? You can remove edges and vertices. We'll call it as just a subgraph. But spanning subgraph means you can remove only the edges, but no vertex should be removed. So, whatever the vertices are present in the given graph, all the vertices should present in the spanning subgraph. But some of the edges can be removed. It should contain all the vertices. Right? Consider the same example. So, if the given graph is like this, A, B, C, D, E. Right? Now, this is your G. Now, the spanning subgraph will be, it must contain all the vertices present in G. That is, all the 5 vertices must be there. But some of the edges you can remove. You can remove. I can remove, let us suppose if I remove B, C, then you can have the graph like this. You can have a graph. It is a subgraph and a spanning subgraph. Clear? Because why it is spanning? All the edges should be present. All the 5 edges should be present. But this edge can be present. Clear now? So this is about a subgraph and a spanning subgraph. And the next is complement of a graph. Complement of a graph. You can find the complement to a given graph. You can also find the complement to a subgraph. You can find the complement to a given graph. You can find the complement to the subgraph also. Okay? So first we'll see how to find the complement to a given graph. Okay? So if you want to find the complement to a given graph, first of all we should find the complete graph. You'll be given with a graph, right? So when a graph is given, you'll be able to know how many vertices will be there in that. So if you know the number of vertices, you can draw the complete graph. Between every pair of vertices, you can add the edge, right? So you can draw the complete graph. Now, after drawing the complete graph, you have to identify whatever the edges are missing in the given graph when you compare with the complete graph. Clear, ma? Listen carefully. First, draw the complete graph by identifying the number of vertices in the given graph. After that, compare these two graphs and identify whatever the edges are missing in the given graph when you compare with this complete graph. Add the missing edges. Add the missing edges in the complemented graph. In the complemented graph. That means, in simple terms, you can say that the complement graph is equal to complete graph minus given graph. Complete graph minus given graph. Let us suppose if you want to calculate, if you are asked to find the complement of a subgraph, that means the graph will be given and its subgraph is also given. Now what you need to do is you have to compare these two. You need to compare these two, right? Subgraph means what? You will get the subgraph after removing some of the edges. After removing some of the edges, then you will get a subgraph, right? Now, complement of this subgraph is identify whatever the edges are removed, or identify whatever the edges are missing in the subgraph when you compare with the given graph. Add those removed edges, you will get a complement of. Is it clear? No. Everyone's having the same problem. Is everyone the same problem? Why? Let me explain example. Let me so here listen one more time. Oh, wait for a while, ma. Wait for a while. Is it clear now? So if a graph is given, if you are asked you to find the complement graph, you have to find the complete graph first. From the complete graph, if I compare with the complete graph, identify whatever the edges are missing. Those missing edges should be added in the complemented graph. Now, if you are asked to find the complement of a subgraph, then what you have to do is compare the given graph and the subgraph. Identify the edges which are missing in the subgraph when you compare with the original graph. Those missing edges should be added into the subgraph, complemented subgraph. Still the same problem you are having? Yes, ma, please let me know. Are you facing the same problem? Okay. So have you understood what is a complemented graph? If you are clear with this concept, I'll explain you one example. Find out the complement of a subgraph. That means a graph is given and its subgraph is also given. Let me draw the graph first. So this is a graph given. This is Gma, and its subgraph is given as G1 as so a graph and its subgraph were given. Now you have to find out the complement of the subgraph. The complement of the subgraph you have to find out. Clear? So how you can do that? Compare these two graphs, identify whatever the vertices and whatever the edges are missing. Now, how many edges we have here, ma? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Total of 7 edges we have in the given graph. In the subgraph, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 edges were there. Let me name the edges. E1, E2, E3, E4, E5, E6, E7. Now we have in the subgraph E1 is there, E3 is there, E5 is there, E7 are there. So the complemented graph must contain the leftover 3 edges from this graph. Identify what are those. E2 is not there and E2 is from B to D, right? E3 is here. Now E4 you include here, E4 which is from D to C, and E5 is there but E6 is not there. E6 is from C to F and E7 is there. So 1, 2, 3, 3 edges we have included. Therefore this is the complement of a subgraph. Complement of a subgraph. Yes, is it clear? Have you understood, ma? అర్థమైందా? Now if the subgraph is not given, if only the graph is given, if you are asked to find its complemented graph, let me see how to get that. So if a graph is given like this, now G is given like this. Now you find the complement of this graph. So how you will find the complement? I told you the complemented graph is equal to complete graph minus given graph. GK means complete graph. First of all, you should draw the complete graph first. So how many edges we have? 4 edges are there. A, B, C, D. You know how to draw the complete graph from A to B, A to C, A to D, B to C, B to D, C to D. Right? This is the complete graph. Let me name this E1, E2, E3, E4, E5, E6. Right? Now let me name this here. E2C is E2, E6 and E7. One second. This is E5. This is E6. Okay. So E6 is there. And what is this? E3. How many edges we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 edges we are having here. We have 6 edges in the complemented graph. Okay, I'll explain. So the complement of a graph, listen carefully, the complement of a graph is equal to complete graph minus given graph. Right? So now a graph is given like this. A graph is given like this. You have to find its complement. So to know the complement, first of all, we should find the complement or complete graph. So how you will draw the complete graph? You have to draw the vertices between every pair of vertices. So draw the edges between every pair of vertices, right? Now this is your complete graph. Now identify whatever the edges are missing in the given graph when you compare with the complete graph. Those missing edges you must add in the complement graph, right? This is the given graph. This is the complete graph. Now complemented graph I'll be writing here. Complement I'll be writing here. Before that, if you label the edges, then it will be easy for you to write the identify the missing edges, E5 and E6, right? Now, do we have E1? No. So E1 will be added in the complemented graph. Do we have E2 in the given graph? Yes, we have. So don't add it. Do you have E3? Yes, it is there. Do we have E4? No, it is not there. So add E4 in the complemented graph and it is from B to D. Now, do we have E5? Yes, it is there. E6 is not there. So E6, that is from A to D. That will be added in the complemented graph. Right? So in this way, we can find the complement of a given graph. Clear? Satvika, is it clear? Okay. Is everyone understood this, ma'am? Next concept is representation of the graphs. Representation of the graph. Graph representation. So a graph can be represented using two methods. One is adjacency matrix and incidence matrix. Adjacency matrix and incidence matrix. So we will see how to draw the adjacent matrix for an undirected graph and for a directed graph. Similarly, how to get the incidence matrix for an undirected graph and for a directed graph. Clear? First, we'll see the adjacency matrix representation for an undirected graph. Adjacency matrix representation for an undirected graph. Clear? So matrix means rows and column. So if there is a graph with n vertices, then the corresponding adjacency matrix will be A is equal to Aij, and the size of this matrix will be n by n. If G is a graph with n vertices, the corresponding adjacency matrix for this graph A is of size n by n, and the entries in the matrix will have the value 1 and 0. The entries will be having 1 or 0. The value will be 1 if there is an edge between, the vertex I and the vertex J. Between the vertices I and J, if there is an edge, then the corresponding entry value is 1, and otherwise it is 0. That means if there is no edge, the value will be 0. Clear? Similarly, the adjacency matrix for a directed graph, adjacency matrix for a directed graph will be, so same thing, if G is a graph with n vertices, then we will have an adjacency matrix A of size n by n, where Aij is equal to 1 or 0. The value will be 1 or 0. And this value is 0 if there is an edge from I to J. If there is an edge from I to J. If there is an edge from I to J. Clear? Otherwise it is 0. Clear? That means from ith vertex to the jth vertex, if there is an edge, we will call it as, that corresponding entry will be 1. Otherwise it is 0. In case of a directed graph, between A and B, if there is an edge, the value will be 0. But here the direction is to be specified. Is it clear? So this is the adjacency matrix representation for an undirected graph and for a graph. Let me give you an example. Consider an undirected graph first. V1, V2, V3, V4. Now you find the adjacency matrix representation for this graph A. So what is the size of A here? The number of vertices are 4. So you will get a matrix of size n by n. That is, you will get a matrix of size 4 by 4. That is, you will have V1, V2, V3 in the columns, and we will have same vertices in the rows also. Right? Now you will get a 4 by 4 matrix. Now these entries should be filled with either 1 or 0, as it is undirected graph. That means Aij is equal to 1 if there is an edge between I and j. Now consider, do we have an edge between 1 and 1? That means, do we have a loop at V1? No, so it is 0. Do we have the edge between 1 and 2? Yes, there is an edge between 1 and 2. So the value will be 1. Now, do we have the edge between 1 and 3? Yes, it is there. Edge between 1 and 4 is there. So value is 1. Now consider the second row. That is, consider V2. Do we have the edge between 2 and 1? Yes. 2 and 2, there is no self loop. 2 and 3, yes. 2 and 4, no edge between 2 and 4. Consider V3. Between V3 and 1, we have an edge. 3 to 2, yes, there is an edge. No self loop. V3 to V4 is there is an edge. Done. Now consider V4. From V4, we have an edge to 1, 4 and 1. No edge to V2. 4 and 3. Between 4 and 3, we have an edge. There is no self loop. So this is the adjacency matrix representation for an undirected graph. For an undirected graph. Clear? If let us suppose if there are parallel edges, something like V1, V2. Now, between any pair of vertices, if you have parallel edges, then the corresponding entry will be 2. So here we have 3 vertices. You will get a matrix of size 3 by 3. Right? So between 1 and 2, we have an edge. 1 and 1 we don't have an edge. 1, 2 we have an edge. 1 and 3 we don't have an edge. Now from 2 we have an edge to 1. There is a self loop at 2. V2 to V3. Now V2 to V3 we have parallel edges between the same pair of vertices. If you have more than one undirected edge, we'll call them as multiple or parallel edges. So for parallel edges, the value will be 2. So it is 1 and 2. Similarly, V3 to V1 we don't have. V3 to V2 we have parallel edges. No self loop at V3. Clear? Now we'll see how to draw the adjacency matrix for a directed graph. A, B, C, D. Now this is a directed graph of 4 vertices. So you will get a adjacency matrix of size 4 by 4. Now the value, the adjacency matrix will have entry Aij where Aij is equal to 1. If there is a vertex or if there is an edge from I to j, from I to j, if you have an edge, then it is 1. Otherwise it is 0. Do we have an edge from A to A? No edge. From A to B, do we have an edge? Yes, there is an edge from A to B. You just observe the arrow mark. So it is 1. From A to C also we have an edge. Now from A to D, we don't have an edge from A to D. So it is 0. Consider B. From B to A, you don't have an edge. B to B, no edge. B to C, yes, there is an edge from B to C. So it is 1. From B to D, no edge. Now from C to A, no edge. C to B, no. C to C, no. From C to D, you have an edge. 1. Consider B. From D to A, we have an edge. D to B, we don't have an edge. D to C also no edge. D to D, no self loop. Right? So this is the adjacency matrix representation for a directed graph. Is it clear? Now, second representation of a graph is incidence matrix representation. Incidence matrix representation. Clear? Are you clear with this adjacency matrix? Now we'll see the second representation. First of all, we'll see the incidence matrix for an undirected graph. Incidence matrix for an undirected graph. Okay. So, if graph G is with vertices V and E, and assume that there are n number of vertices. Here we are considering both vertices and edges. There in adjacency matrix, you will be considering only the vertices, both in rows and columns. But here in incidence matrix, we will be considering vertices in the rows, edges in the columns, right? If there are n vertices and m number of edges, then there exists an incidence matrix B with Bij. B contains Bij as their entries, where the size of this is n by m. N by m. N number of vertices, m number of edges. Where the value of Bij is equal to 1 or 0. The value is 1 or 0. And this value is 1 if the edge here, remember this I represent, I is the first value. So first represents what? Number of vertices. Second represents number of edges. So this I represents the vertices, J represents the edges. So the value is 1 if the edge J is incident with I. If the edge J is incident with the vertex I, then it is 0. Otherwise it is, then it is 1. Otherwise it is 0. Clear? Similarly, for a directed graph. Now let's see the incidence matrix for a directed graph. Here we will be having 3 values. Same thing, G is a graph with B comma E, n number of vertices, m number of edges. Then you will get a matrix of size n by m. N by m, where Bij, it will take 3 values for a directed graph. 1, -1 and G. In simple terms, you remember that 1 is used for outgoing edge. Outgoing edge. -1 is used for incoming edge. If there is no edge, then you can use 0. That means Bij is equal to 1 if the arc, in case of directed graph, we'll call, if the arc J is moving away from I, away from the vertex I, that is outgoing edge. From the vertex I, which is the outgoing edge, that will be 1. The value will be 1. If I'll explain with example, then you'll understand it clearly. Now, if the arc J is coming towards the vertex I, then it is -1. Towards I, then it is -1. If there is no edge, then it is 0. Is it clear, ma? Please go through it once. In case of an incidence matrix representation for an undirected graph, Bij is equal to 1 if the edge J is incident with the vertex I. Similarly, in case of a directed graph, if this edge J is an outgoing edge, then it is outgoing edge from the vertex I, value is +1. If the edge J is an incoming edge towards the vertex I, then it is -1. Otherwise, it is 0. Clear? And one more point to be remembered is, if you want to represent this incidence matrix, then you have to label the vertices, edges. If the graph is given without labeling the edges, then you can take the labeling for the edges. That will be very easy. Now consider an undirected graph, and Draw its incidence matrix. Draw its incidence matrix. Clear? So here you must name these with the labels. Name all the edges with some labels. Clear? Right. Now A, B, that is the incidence matrix, is equal to what? It is of size n by n, where n represents the number of vertices and m represents the number of edges. How many vertices we have? 4 vertices. Number of edges are 5. So you will have a matrix of size 4 by 5. That is 4 rows, 5 columns. 4 rows, 5 columns. Clear? Now this is the matrix. Now you fill these entries in the matrix. V1 to E1. Bij is equal to 1 if this edge EJ is incident with I. Clear? Now check whether this edge E1 is incident with V1 or not. Yes, E1 is incident with V1. So it is 1. Is E2 incident with V1? No, E2 is not incident with V1. 0. E3 is not incident with V1. 0. Now E4. E4 is incident with V1. So 1. E5 is also incident with V1. So it is 1. Now coming to second row. Is E1 incident with V2? Yes. E1 is incident with V2. Is E2 incident with V2? Yes. E3 incident with V2? No. E4 not incident with V2. E5 is also not incident. V3. E3 is incident with E1? No. Is V3 incident with E2? Yes. V3 incident with E3. But it is not incident with V4. Sorry, E4. It is incident with E5. Vertex 4 is incident with E3. This vertex 4 is incident with E3 and E4. So, remaining values will be zeros. Clear? Now, let us see the incidence matrix representation for a digraph, for a directed graph. V1, V2, consider the same graph, just but with some directions you consider. This is E1 and E2, E3, E4, E5, right? So the matrix will be the same, n by n size. N represents the number of vertices, V1, V2, V3, V4. M represents the number of edges, E1, E2, E3, E4, E5, right? Now you fill these entries with +1, -1 or 0. Now this value is +1. So the value is +1 if it is an outgoing edge, right? If it is an outgoing edge, then the value is +1. If the edge J is outgoing from A. If it is incoming towards I, it is -1, otherwise it is 0. Right? Now consider this vertex V1 and E1. Consider this edge E1. This edge E1 is going away from V1. That is, it is an outgoing edge from V1. So our outgoing, the value is 1, right? Now consider E2. This E2 is not at all incident with V1. So it is 0. Similarly, E3 is also not incident. So 0. E4. E4 is incident with V1 and it is an incoming edge. For incoming edge, -1. E5 is an outgoing edge. So it is +1. Now consider the second vertex. From V2, only E1, E2 are incident. Remaining all are zeros because they are not incident. Now consider E1. This E1 is an incoming edge towards V2. So it is -1. E2 is an outgoing edge, so plus 1. From V3, E2, E3, E5. So E1, E4 are zeros. Only these three are incident. So E2 is an incoming edge. It is an incoming edge. So for incoming, it is minus 1. E5 is also incoming. E3 is outgoing edge. So plus 1. Similarly, V4. From V4, only E3, E4 are incident. So remaining all will be zeros. And from towards the vertex E4, E3 is coming. That is incoming. So it is minus 1. E4 is an outgoing edge from V0. So it is plus 1. Clear now? So in this way, we can represent the graphs using incidence matrix and adjacency matrix. Is it clear? This is about today's session. In the next class, I'll tell you how to check whether the given graphs are isomorphic or not.